when they're under investigation. And Shadow Education Minister Julian Leeser joins me now live from Canberra. Julian, thanks for your time. Great to see you. Now, you've actually criticised this for not being strong enough. Why?
Well, you know, you can't have a situation, Shari, where after Iran, a criminal terrorist regime that has attacked Australia on 2 occasions, where we've booted the ambassador, where we've listed the IRGC, where we've said people can't travel there, you can't have a situation as we have presently where at least 2 universities are still dealing with Iran. And all they've got so far is a polite letter from the department to say, stop doing this, and the department covers up for which universities they are. I think we need to know which are the universities that are still dealing with Iran, and there needs to be some proper penalties through the mission compact process by which the government negotiates funding with universities. There needs to be penalties for people who are engaging with Iran if they've breached the autonomous sanctions regime, and the universities themselves need to bring penalties against any staff who've continued to engage with Iran and some of these other countries where there are real security concerns for having partnerships and arrangements with them. No wonder university reputations across the broader community are so poor when they can't even read the writing on the wall about our strategic adversaries.
And one of the reasons why this is concerning is if Australian intellectual property or research, especially when it could have a dual purpose, is sent to a hostile nation, we just don't know how that would be abused.
Well, that's exactly right. I mean, there were reports of Australian researchers working on drone technology with Iran, drones that have been used in the Straits of Hormuz, drones that have been used and exported to the front between Ukraine and Russia, drones that could be used against Australians. That's not in our national interest, and our researchers and our universities should be serving our national interest.
Out of interest, do you know which universities are cooperating with these hostile nations?
I don't, Shari, but like the rest of Australia, I'd love to find out.
Well, let's find out, Julian. Let's make that our mission. Look, I want to ask you about the fall in house prices. I've been speaking about it all week. A report in the Fin Review shows that house prices have dropped in 38 marginal seats. So looking at this from a political perspective, I mean, most of those are held by Labor currently, but also your seat of Barara. Do you think this will benefit Labor or the coalition?
Well, I'll tell you who it won't benefit, and that is families in my electorate. The Labor government has taken a baseball bat to the housing market here, and they have wiped $114,000 off the value of the average home in my electorate, and that is making everyone poorer. And at the same time, when I talk to real estate agents, they are not seeing any uptick in my electorate in terms of the number of new first home owners entering the market. So this policy of Labor's toxic taxes is just tanking the housing market, making Australians poorer and not achieving their aim of getting more first home buyers in there. It's a failed policy and it's a double whammy for people in my electorate.
Today, your colleague Andrew Bragg put forward the figure of 180,000 net arrivals. Is that official coalition policy? I mean, Pauline Hanson said we should have 130,000. 180 official coalition policy?
Well, let me explain how we're going to come to the figure. Firstly, the Labor Party has completely lost control of the migration program. They've brought 1 million people here and we have to reduce net overseas migration. I've been very clear about that, as has everyone. What we have said is that we will base the net overseas migration figure in any particular year based on the houses constructed the previous year. Now, if we were in government this year, Andrew Bragg was effectively giving a figure of 180,000 because that's based on the number of houses constructed in the previous year. But of course, the next election is not until 2028, and we would apply that policy setting to work out what the NOM would be based on the number of houses constructed in the previous year prior.
So you're saying 180,000 is how many migrants you'd bring in if the election was this year, but you can't tell us what it would be if you won at the next election?
Of course, we don't know what's going to happen to the housing market over the next couple of years, because there might be a growth in the housing market, in which case we'd bring more people. There might be a decline in the housing market, in which case we'd bring fewer people.
Don't people want to know? Don't people want to know what the coalition figure is, though?
What we can tell Australians very clearly is that we will base our figure based off the number of houses that are constructed the previous year, because you can't bring people to the country if you can't house them. And that's been the problem with what Labor has done. They've let the migration program get out of control. They've brought 1 million people here in 4 years and they just can't house people. And this is putting extraordinary pressure on the housing market.
The Royal Commission into Anti-Semitism is wrapping up its hearings at the end of the month. Do you think it's heard from enough people? Do you have any concerns?
Shari, this was the Royal Commission that Anthony Albanese never wanted to have. He lied about it. He denied that he never wanted to have it. And he set the timetable to report by the end of the year. I frankly don't feel that the Royal Commission has heard from enough people. I think it needs to hear from the key university leaders who were there at the time some of this bad conduct took place. I think it needs to hear from many more of the arts organisations than it's heard from. I think it needs to hear from the protest organisers. They should be in the dock rather than asking the questions. I think it needs to hear from government ministers and it needs to hear from people like Josh Frydenberg. I think it will be a great tragedy if the Royal Commission wraps up at the end of the year without hearing from those groups of people at the very least.
Yeah, completely agree. Well said. I'd add some politicians in there as well. The Prime Minister, the Home Affairs Minister, the Foreign Minister.
Absolutely.
I could submit quite a list.
The Education Minister.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Julian Leeser, I really appreciate your time from Canberra. Thank you.